Hello and welcome to this orientation session of the paper performance management. My name is Luqman Rafiq and I shall be taking you people through this performance management syllabus. Before I go on to discuss about the performance management syllabus, let me just share a bit about my background. I have been in teaching profession for more than 13 years now and have been teaching different qualifications and different papers. The qualifications that I have been teaching include the ACCA, the ICAW, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan, and some other professional accountancy qualifications. The subjects that I have been teaching, they include the financial reporting, financial management, and the performance management. So our orientation session for today is about the performance management, where I'm actually going to tell you that what is this performance management syllabus all about, what are the contents of this syllabus, and what is it that is going to be needed for you to pass the paper, and how we are going to go through the entire curriculum, entire course. That is something that we are actually going to be talking about. Now let's just start off. Let's just start discussing about it. Basically, when we talk about the performance management, there are two terminologies that are very common and that are usually used interchangeably. But there are two different terminologies. Now what exactly are those two different terminologies? One of them is about the performance management and the other one of them is about the performance measurement. So I repeat, one of them is about performance management and the other one of them is about performance measurement. Now let's have a bit of a discussion about what is performance measurement and what exactly is performance management. So first of all, I want you people to understand organizational structures, whether that be the human resource, whether that be the IT, or whether that be the government, whether that be the society, you would have to look after every single aspect of the business. So I repeat, whenever we talk about running a business would actually mean what? Running a business would actually mean that you are actually looking after what? You are looking after every single aspect of the business, whether that be the research, whether that be the production, whether that be the distribution, marketing, every single aspect of the business is being considered. Now let's move a bit forward and let's discuss it. The performance management concept is that you have to make sure when we talk about the performance management, the performance management concept is that you have to make sure that an organization is able to achieve its objectives. So I repeat, when we talk about the performance management is just to make sure that the organization is able to achieve its goals, the organization is able to achieve its objectives. That is what the concept of performance management is all about. Now, so when we talk about the difference between the performance management and measurement, what exactly is the difference between them is? The performance management is an overall concept of managing the performance of the business. I repeat, when we talk about the performance management is the overall concept of managing the performance of the business. And when we talk about the performance measurement, the measurement is actually you are quantifying the performance. I bet you are quantifying the performance. When you are actually converting the performance into numbers, that is actually going to be considered as performance measurement. So there is a difference between performance management and performance measurement, and you would have to understand this thing that measurement is actually part and parcel of management. Measurement is actually part and parcel of management. So like for example, if we are talking about the sales and if we are talking about the gross profit of the business, what actually happens is that if let's say the gross profit of the business is going down, I repeat, if the gross profit of the business is going down, what does that mean? The going down of the gross profit actually means that the business is not generating much profit on its sales. So what you would do is that you would actually take corrective actions. I repeat, you would actually take corrective actions. And when you would actually take the corrective actions with respect to this is actually going to be termed as management. So what is performance measurement? What is performance management? Measurement is simply quantifying the performance. And management is actually acting, taking actions just to make sure that you are able to improve the performance. So that is what the performance management is all about. So basically, the paper performance management of ACCA, what is this paper? It's not performance measurement. It's a paper of performance management. And as I told you, that the management is a bigger concept. The management is a larger concept. Measurement is a smaller concept. Measurement is just quantifying. Management is basically not just quantifying, but actually quantifying and then ensuring that you are able to achieve the organization's goals, organization's objectives. That is what it is actually going to be all about. Now let's move a bit forward and let's discuss a bit further. I've got in front of me the performance management syllabus. It's a syllabus guide that has been published by ACCA. And under this specific syllabus guide, you would actually realize this thing, that this syllabus guide is for the period from September 2023 to June 2024. So it's going to be relevant for the period September 23 attempt, then for the December 23, and then for 2 more attempts of March 24 and June 24. Now when we talk about this syllabus guide, there are few important aspects of the syllabus guide that you should understand. And what are those important aspects of the syllabus guide? One of them is about the relational diagram, which actually tells you the relationship between this specific course and the other courses of the ACCA. The introduction to the syllabus. The third thing is the approach to examination of the syllabus. And then lastly, we are also going to be discussing about the summary of changes to the performance management syllabus. So this is also something that we would be talking about. Now let's start discussing each one of them one by one. Let's start taking things forward. First of all, if I talk about the concept of performance management's relational diagram. Now this relational diagram actually tells you what is this course related to, which subjects is this course related to, what are the subjects that you should have studied before getting into this course, what are the subjects that would ultimately be utilizing the content from this course. So that is something that you get. Now if I talk about the performance management, you would realize this thing, you would understand this thing, that there is a course, there is a concept which is the management accounting course. The management accounting course is also called a basic cost accounting course. So under this management accounting course, you study a lot of techniques with respect to the cost accounting, whether that be cost classification, whether that be the overheads absorption costing, whether that be the marginal costing, or that be the product costing, or many other small techniques that you actually go about. So almost every single information, every single piece of information or knowledge that you have gained at the management accounting level is ultimately examinable at the performance management level. I repeat, every single piece of information that you have actually gained at the management accounting level is ultimately going to be examined at the performance management level. So there is obviously going to be a broad forward knowledge of management accounting. I know and I do understand this thing that a lot of you people would be coming out of a background where the management accounting course would have been exempted to you people, or maybe you would have gotten you would have actually passed it out quite a long time back and you would have forgotten almost everything That is part and parcel of this of the management accounting syllabus. So you don't have to worry about it, because what I have done with respect to performance management is that, for example, if I know that I'm going to be teaching the activity based costing, let's say, for example, if I know that I'm going to be teaching activity based costing, so what have I done? I've actually ensured, I repeat, I've actually ensured that before going through the activity based costing, I would start off with the basics that actually underlie this concept of activity based costing. I've actually done is that I would make sure that I would go about initially for the underlying concepts with respect to this activity based costing. You get my point? So basically, when we talk about the concept of activity based costing, the concept of activity based costing is like this. The activity based costing, or whatever things that we are going to be discussing at this performance management level, we would be just making sure, I repeat, we would be just making sure that we are able to, I repeat, we would be just making sure that we are able to revise the basic concepts, and then we go about it, right? Okay. Now, let's move a bit forward and let's discuss a bit further about the syllabus areas, that what are the syllabus areas. So let's just start discussing a bit about the syllabus area. You could see these things. This is a diagram that actually tells you about the different syllabus areas. What I'll just do is that I'll just go through each one of them one by one and would actually guide you people through. So I could just mark them out, which is the management information and data analytics, that's number 1. The specialized cost and management accounting techniques, that's number 2. The decision making, that's number 3. Budgeting and control, that's number 4. Performance measurement and control, that's number 5. Now, lastly, you've got the employability and technology skills. Now, what do we mean by the employability and technology skills? Let's just start discussing about this, that what is this employability and technology skill and how is it connected to all of them. As you know, that all the ACCA papers are now computer-based examinations. And when we talk about the computer-based examinations, so with respect to computer-based examinations, you do understand these things. That computer-based examination actually requires you to do a lot of things, which is basically you would have to talk about spreadsheet, you would have to talk about the Word, and then obviously there are different OTQs, which is commonly known as MCQs also. So that is something that is actually going to happen. Now let's just try to understand something so that we could go about it. So I have discussed with you people that what does the examiner mean with respect to employability and technology skill. I'm now going to move forward and I'm now going to start discussing about the other areas of the syllabus, that what are the other areas of the syllabus. So let's actually discuss about them. So basically, as we move forward, you could see the first area of the syllabus is about the management information system and data analytics. Management information system and data analytics. Let me just give you a bit of a background about this management information system and data analytics. Basically, you know this thing, that over a period of time, what has happened is the significance and importance of collecting and interpreting data has increased a lot. The organizations, they do know this thing, that data is an important element, data is an important aspect for any business. And the better a business handles the data, the better a business is going to progress, right? The organization, they know about it. Now, one thing that I want you people to understand is that this specific area of management information system and data analytics, which is part and parcel of the performance management, this specific area discusses about the different types of information systems, the capabilities of the information system, the expectations that an organization can have from an information system. That's what they actually talk about. And then in addition to this, how the big data, which is the raw data, which is available in general, could be used, and how it could be analyzed, and how it could be interpreted, and how it could be converted into a meaningful information. So that is all something that we are going to be talking about. This specific part of the syllabus is usually examined as part and parcel of the objective test question. For some of you who don't know what is an OTQ, it's just like an MCQ. So they are usually part and parcel of the OTQ questions. That's what it is. The next thing is about the specialized cost and management accounting technique. Gone are the days when you used to talk about the techniques of absorption costing and marginal costing only. Nowadays, the organizations, they have advanced. There are different challenges that the organizations are facing. There are different objectives that the organizations want to achieve. And in order to actually tackle those challenges, in order to handle those things, what the organizations are actually trying to do is that they're trying to introduce the different type of cost and management accounting techniques, and they're adapting to the different type of cost and management accounting techniques. So amongst those techniques, 4 or 5 techniques are very common nowadays and are used by organizations a lot. What are those techniques? These include the activity-based costing. That's number 1. What is activity-based costing? You actually allocate the overheads on the basis of activities that an organization undertakes. Then you talk about the target costing. What's a target costing? The target costing is another technique which is more or less used nowadays, where you set a target cost, that what a target cost for the organization is going to be, and then you actually try to achieve that target cost. You try to design the product like that. Life cycle costing, which actually covers the cost over the entire life cycle of the business. Covers the cost over the entire life cycle of the business. That's what the life cycle costing is. So whatever the entire life cycle of the business, you try to cover up the cost during the entire life cycle, and you try to actually incorporate a product cost on that basis. Then there is this throughput accounting. What's the throughput accounting? Throughput accounting is similar to the marginal costing principle, where we, under the marginal costing, what we do is that we say that sales minus variable cost is contribution. Under the throughput accounting, it's more or less a similar concept, but over here the general concept is that what is a throughput? The throughput actually refers to output. The throughput refers to output. And when we talk about a throughput referring to output, the throughput referring to output actually means what? The throughput referring to output actually means that an organization would consider only the material cost to be a variable cost, and then it would say that all other costs are fixed costs, and it would try to maximize the output on the basis of materials that's used. Lastly, accounting for environmental and sustainability factors. As you know, nowadays it's quite common for the organizations. What is common for the organizations? It's quite common for the organizations to focus upon the environmental activities, to focus upon ensuring sustainability in the environment, and for organizations to be able to undertake these activities, it is quite important. It is quite important that as an entity, as an organization, you should introduce factors, you should introduce things that focus, that encourage the sustainability trading. That's what you should focus upon as an organization. So this is again a specialized cost and management accounting technique area, and this is again part and parcel of the OTQs that are examined. You are not expected to have a long question on this area. You are expected to have the objective test question pertaining to this specific area. The next one of them is about the decision making techniques. Now, as you could see that there are different type of decision makings that are actually being quoted here. There is this relevant cost analysis, the CVP, the limiting factor, pricing decision, make or buy, dealing with risk and uncertainty. Let me just give you a bit of an idea about each one of them. So under this decision making technique, what we would be doing is that we would be discussing in detail that if you are undertaking a decision, if you are evaluating a decision, what are the costs that you should be considering. The cost to be considered, number one thing. What are the costs that you should be considering? I repeat, You should actually know that what are the costs that we should be considering. Now the next thing is about the CVP, the cost volume profit, which would focus upon the quantity, which product should be manufactured in how much quantity. Then at the same time that would also talk about the product mix and things like that. Then you have got the third thing, which is limiting factor. Limiting factors actually refers to those things which restrict your organization's performance. What do you mean by limiting factors restricting the organization's performance? You see, there could be many things that could limit your organization's performance. What could be many things that could limit the organization's performance? The limiting factor could be your demand. The limiting factor could be the capacity. The limiting factor could be the material. The limiting factor could be the labor availability. There could be different type of limiting factors that could exist and that could ultimately have an impact upon an organization's performance. So when we would be talking about the limiting factors, we would be considering this thing, that what are the different type of limiting factors that could exist and could have an impact upon the organization. So that is something that we're going to be talking about. Then you've got the pricing decisions, a very important area again, because you see what happens is that when we talk about the concept of pricing, you need to understand this thing that it's very important for an organization to have an appropriate pricing policy in place. The overall approach to pricing, the strategy for pricing, the method of establishing the price, these are quite important things that any organization would have to consider. Because you see, if your products are not priced correctly, that means your profitabilities could be badly impacted. If your products are not priced correctly, that could have an impact upon the demand for the product. There could be a lot of impacts on the product because of the incorrect pricing that could be set. So what you would be discussing in this specific thing is that what are the different things that we would have to consider with respect to the pricing, what are the different strategies that we could adopt, what are the different methods that we could adopt, things like that. Next, there is this make or buy and other short-term decisions. Now let me just give you a bit of an idea. It is not necessary that if you have a product, so you manufacture it and then sell it. It could even be outsourced. It could even be made outside your own manufacturing facility. You could engage some third party. You could engage some outsider to manufacture that product for you. So if you could engage some outsider, could engage some third party for manufacturing the product for you, so that is actually going to be a decision of buying the product, So here we have got a make or buy decision also, and then there are these other short-term decisions also, which actually talks about which product to manufacture, whether to actually accept a contract or not, or things like that. And lastly, dealing with risk and uncertainty. You know, every passing day there is uncertainty that's being faced because the economic circumstances across the globes are not quite well. The global recession has probably just started. There is probably going to be a situation where you would ultimately say that unfortunately the economies are going down. The trend is on the downward side. The trend is not on the upward side. So when we are talking about dealing with the risk and uncertainty, the concept of dealing with risk and uncertainty is going to be like this, that you would actually say what? You would actually say that that basically whenever we are taking a decision, whatever the uncertainties that could exist, whatever the risk factors that are there, just incorporate them in the decision making so that you could have a better decision making. So this decision making techniques is an area of the syllabus which we would be focusing upon, which would be talking about. That's what the risk and uncertainty is. Then there is this syllabus area which is about the budgeting and control. And when we talk about the budgeting and control, let me just guide you. You must be having a bit of an idea what a budget is. So whenever we talk about the concept of budget, a budget actually simply refers to your future financial plan. I mean, the budget simply refers to your future financial plan. Now, when we talk about the future financial plan, just try to understand this thing. Basically, what happens is that how much quantity is going to be produced next year, how many products are going to be sold, at what price are they going to be sold, what quantities of material would be purchased, what labor hours would be procured, what overhead costs would be incurred, etc., etc. You plan out in advance what's going to happen in the next year, what's going to happen next year. That's what you do. You plan out in advance. So when I talk about the concept of budget, a budget is actually a future financial plan. It's a future plan. It's something that predicts your future. It's something that tells you about your future. It's something that tells you what is going to be there in the future. That's what the budget is. So basically, we have got different type of budgeting techniques that are part and parcel of the course, and plus we have got different forecasting and analytical technique for setting up the budget. That how to set up budget, how to actually set up budget, that is something that we would be talking about. Then it's not just budgeting, it's budget and control. And when we talk about the control, the concept of control is basically demonstrated by the variance analysis. Because what is variance analysis? When we talk about the variance analysis, the concept of variance analysis is basically a variance is the difference between planned versus actual. I repeat, the variance is simply the difference between the planned versus actual. So whatever you have planned out and whatever the actual situation is, the difference between them is variance. And there are different variances. You can have sales variance, the expected sales was something else, the actual sales turned out to be something else. You could have material variances, the material cost was expected to be something else and it turned out to be something else. You expected the variance to be, the variance arrived with respect to labor cost. The labor cost expected to be X, the labor cost turned out to be Y. So there could be different type of variances that could exist. So we are going to be discussing in detail the different variances and the reasons for those variances arising and how exactly as an organization, as an entity, you're going to be handling those variances. Then lastly, there is this performance measurement and control, which is actually the final area of the syllabus, and in fact the most important area of the syllabus, where we would be talking about the different methods of measuring the performance of organization, the different methods of quantifying the performance of the organization, and how after the measurement the corrective actions could be taken, what those measurement tools could be, what could be the appropriate measurement in the given circumstances. So that is what we are going to be talking about when we would be discussing this performance measurement and control. Now, if I sum up all of this, you could see that there are multiple sections, and these three sections are the core sections, which is section C, section D, and then section E. These three are the core sections of the syllabus, and you could expect long questions on these sections. You could expect long questions out of this specific areas of the syllabus. Now, let me just guide you a bit further, which is the approach to examination of the syllabus. Now, what exactly is the approach to examination of the syllabus? The first thing that you need to understand is that it is going to be a 3-hour 10-minute examination. You'll be given 10 minutes extra for the reading time. There is going to be section A. The section A would have 15 OTQs, and each OTQs is going to be of 2 marks each. Section B is going to have 3 case studies. Each case study would have 5 OTQs. And then section C, there are going to be 2 questions of 20 mark each. These questions could be based on the spreadsheet. These questions could be based on Word, etc., etc. That is something that could possibly exist. Now try to understand something. Basically, when we talk about this specific scenario, when we talk about this specific scenario, what is it that we need to understand? The section C examiner has specifically defined that which areas of the syllabus will come from section C, so it's performance measurement and control area, the decision making technique area, and or budgeting and control area. So basically the three sections of the syllabus, one of them is about section number C, second is about section D, and third is section E. You will be examined out of these three syllabus areas. I repeat, you would be examined out of these three syllabus areas. That is probably something that's gonna happen. Now, this was a general introduction about the performance management syllabus, and now what I would actually like to do is that I would like to discuss few more things with you people with respect to how the course is going to be and what are the approaches and what are the methodologies that we would be adapting in order to tackle this course. See, the first thing is that you need to understand this thing, that the pass rate for the performance management course is not very good. Why? Because it is not 100% bookish. There are judgments that are involved. There are judgments that are involved. There are different areas where you have to apply your own judgment. Plus, the course is a bit technical because there are techniques. It's more of a common sense type of a course. It's more of a business decision type course, and not everyone is good at that. So in order for you to be able to pass PM, I would emphasize on basically practice. I would emphasize on practice, because the more you're gonna practice, the better it is going to be. Repeat, the more you're gonna practice, the better it is going to be for you. Now try to understand something. Basically, this is something that I have told you, this is something that I've guided you. Now, what is my approach of going through this performance management syllabus? As you enroll with us, what happens is that our approach is online blended. Now, what do we mean by online blended? It's basically you get recorded lectures, and then what happens is that we conduct a weekly live session. Those weekly live sessions are going to be focused upon the specific topics that you would be informed in advance. Plus, what is going to happen is that there are going to be assignments that you would have to submit. In the last month before the examination, we would have our revision classes in which we would be going through the syllabus areas. So that is what our whole approach is going to be. Plus, you are added to a WhatsApp group where what you could do is that you could ask as many questions you want to ask. You can actually inquire as many things you want. I am also part of the group. There are some tutor assistants also who are part of the group. So this all actually helps us have a concrete, a consolidated good experience of going through the performance management syllabus. So that was all about the performance management course. And I'm actually sharing with you the contact details of our admin so that you could just get in touch with them in case if you want, in case if you need, you could just get in touch with them. So I'm giving you the contact details of our admin. So I would end my class here, I would conclude my session here, and I would like to welcome you all to come and join me for the performance management course. Be part of this course, and hopefully you will enjoy this session a lot. Hopefully you would learn the performance management in a very different manner, and inshallah you will be able to pass in the first attempt. So thanks a lot for your time. Thank you for being here. I look forward to welcoming you all, and inshallah we will continue going about.